Hi, Ms. Cutler.
Yes, hi.
I'm Melanie, Medina. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So we're here today to talk about my client's case, Mr. Bowen. It's my understanding that the tap house would like to try and see if we can settle this before we get to court.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I think, if we can come to a good settlement agreement and settle on a good damage number, I think my client would be amenable to that.
Okay.
However, I'm sure you understand, he's experienced a great loss. So I hope you keep an open mind about some of the interests we might have in this negotiation.
Of course.
So I guess I want to start out, we're asking for $2.5 million at the trial court. So, to settle, we are willing to, of course, lessen that number in the interest of cutting attorney's fees and all the time. And obviously, my client is still very raw from the loss of his wife, so I would like to spare him that trauma of retelling everything in court. With that regard, I think that a fair number for him to settle would be maybe around $1,075,000. Again, just it's significantly less than what he's trying to recover in court.
Okay. Well, first off, I want to personally apologize on behalf of my client for what happened to your client in this case. It was a terrible tragedy, and we also have an interest in not going to trial as well. So we're going to do the best we can to work that out. I will say that I am constrained today by an insurance policy, which will not let me get to $1,075,000 exactly, but we are definitely open to doing some, to work it out, maybe do some non-monetary solutions, that kind of thing in addition. So
okay. So what's your constraint on regards to?
We are thinking maybe $850,000.
Would this be the only thing, or is there any non-monetary?
No, this is the actual cash amount. We are also open to non-monetary solutions. If you have any in mind, we can discuss that. I also have come up with a couple things off the top of my head as well.
Okay. I'm going to tell you right now, $850 seems very low in light of what my client is seeking. I mean, he's lost a spouse. He's lost a source of income. He has 2 kids he needs to take care of. I just don't think $850 will be sufficient. Does your policy allow for any more than that?
The policy maximum is $900,000.
900 is your absolute max?
Absolute max, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. In regards to not saying we're going to settle on this number because it seems very low, but in regards to non-monetary solutions, I mean, what ideas did you guys come up with?
We are willing to totally take over the property damages to your car, whether that's paying to get it fixed or...
well, the car's totaled.
Okay, so, we can work into some buying a new car, replacing that amount.
Okay.
I don't know if you're interested in, we do a lot of volunteering with the community as far as like AA classes. We can, I know that your client would be interested in supporting a community outreach for AA. we would be willing to host and pay for these events.
Okay. In regards to the property damages, this was a second car for his wife. They don't need a second car, unfortunately, anymore. However, they did pay for that car. I believe my client paid around $873. $8,073. It was not an $800 car. Excuse me. So it was around, we can say $8,000. It's a little bit more than that, but, my client is not exactly interested in cashing out on this deal, but, he's on a relatively low income job. And childcare is expensive. That's our main concern, is that his kids are going to be taken care of, especially, my client right now is not at a place where he can provide them a lot of support because he's still healing himself. So we really want to make sure those kids are taken care of, and, not just now, but they want to go to college or do something. We want to make sure that they're going to be able to do that. The property damages, that $8,000, that would help some.
Right.
That pays for a couple months of childcare. So yeah, we would definitely be good with recovering on that. As for the community outreach, we do like this idea. My client, again, underwent a lot of trauma with it, so he doesn't want Sarah to be kind of forgotten about.
Right.
It's very important to him that something is done to commemorate her death and to ensure that this doesn't happen to anybody else, and that people remember what happened to her.
Right, and we're very interested in memorializing her as well and preventing this from happening again, because we agree it is absolutely tragic, and so we want to do everything that we possibly can to keep it from happening to someone in our community again as well. Did you have any non-monetary solutions that you had thought of?
Yeah, that was kind of, one of our biggest concerns in regards to, the tap house specifically, is that just from our depositions and our investigations into the policies in place of the tap house, it seems that there is this kind of culture where they encourage first responders specifically to be drinking, and in this specific instance, it was a law enforcement officer that was intoxicated. So, we are definitely very interested in just how the tap house itself is run. We're very concerned about these policies, and we want to see what we can do to better that, to prevent any future accidents, especially, first responders should be held to a higher standard and should be treated better. We completely appreciate that, but not treated better in the sense that they're encouraged to get drunk. So if we can figure something out that your client can do to better that situation, I think my client would be very interested in hearing about that.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that this has been a wake-up call for my client as well. I think the whole mentality behind this, treating the law enforcement officers with special treatment, I think it comes from a good place. I think that my client now knows that it can have consequences, and so the tap house has learned from its mistakes, and it is very open to, we can have like a formal written clause in our settlement agreement in which we will sit down, say this is not an acceptable policy, everyone must be treated the same. If you look drunk, you need to be cut off, law enforcement officers and first responders included. Is that something that you'd be open to?
Yeah, it is already, we saw the employee handbooks at Discovery, and it does say there that, if you're drunk, you're going to get cut off, but it just doesn't seem it's enforced. So we would like to see some kind of policy in place that, says at what point is it enough, and that kind of takes me to my next concern, which is, Officer Clark, the driver, he was served 12 drinks, which seems excessive. And it seems to us that there was no policy to track how much an individual is drinking. And, that's another concern we had, is that, we, to some degree, we understand that, bars packed, you're not going to be able to see everybody, but we just are confused as to how there's not a method where your client is able to track how much a person is drinking, keeping his tabs and
like a punch card system or something.
Something to track alcohol consumption, especially, 12 drinks is a lot.
Right.
Most people drink maybe 2 or 3 drinks a night and they're done. This is a lot, and that was our concern, is that how did nobody really see this coming, or nobody in management.
Right. And like I say, it definitely has been a wake-up call for my client and all the managers there. They would definitely be open to changing some kind of policy. That the difficulty with that is people buy drinks for other people, especially when they come in a party. And I think on this night the officer was attending a birthday party or something.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So yes, my client is in the works trying to come up with a policy in which we keep track of the number of drinks that a patron is served. If you have any specific ideas on exactly how you think would be a good way to do that, we can hash that out, or you and I can just come up with something that we can take back to our client. My client has given me the authority to come up with something reasonable today for that.
Okay. I mean, one of the suggestions that my client had was, one of those type of situations where, if you're buying drinks for other people, they need to come to the bar with you. If you're not drinking it yourself, and I understand that does get mixed up at some points, but it does seem in this situation specifically that it was very much, buying a drink for my buddy, give me 2 beers, as opposed to saying, okay, if you're going to order more than 1 drink, that other person needs to be at the bar with you so we can see who we're serving. Does that make sense?
Right, so it's like an anti-double fisting policy.
Right, okay, yes. That's a good, in layman's terms. Right. So maybe, something like that, just to make sure, it's my understanding tabs are kept with the bartender.
Yes.
Okay, so if we could institute a policy where, bartender needs to see who's getting the drinks. If you're ordering a round of shots, he needs to see who those shots are going to.
Okay.
And I think that would kind of help track the drinking at the bar. And I mean, I understand it's hard when there's a lot of people, but I just think it seems there were no safeguards in place to keep this from happening.
Right. And my client definitely understands that more could have been done on this night, especially. Is there anything else that you, non-monetary wise?
Okay, so we said, just to make sure, we're instituting the policy, we said no
anti-double fisting.
Anti-double fisting. Okay. Okay, so we have that in place. We talked about the first responders. I want to be clear on how we're gonna redress that situation, because it's my understanding that Tap House is very popular with first responders already because of this established policy. So I'm worried that, your client's not going to want to lose business and is going to just kind of keep that policy going. So how can we make sure that stops?
You do bring up a good point. The Tap House is very popular with the law enforcement first responders. We can put a specific clause in our employee handbook, print new employee handbooks, ensure that every employee and every new hire reads that policy. If necessary, we can print this clause out and frame it in the office in the back or in the kitchen or somewhere on site. Just make sure that it's enforced. If it's an out of sight, out of mind thing, then we'll try to nip that in the bud.
Okay. And one of our main concerns is, as I'm sure you know, with the deposition testimony, it seems that one of the waitresses saw what was going on, and the company policy tells her to go to the manager before she cuts somebody off.
Right.
And this is when the manager answered, we're going to cut and slack, they're first responders, so we're just going to let it go. So that's kind of my connected concerns is, this is management. First of all, management is the only person that can cut people off, and management is the one saying cut people slack. So we want this addressed at management level, and we want to know if your client would be open to changing it so that a waitress can cut people off as opposed to having to defer to the manager every time.
I think that that's reasonable. I think, my client realizes that waitresses are often in the best position to see that someone is drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Often the managers are in a back room. They're not always out on the floor interacting with the customers. Not always. So yes, I definitely think that is something we can include in the clause. I mean, like I say, my client's very opening to avoid this ever happening again. So yeah, that's very reasonable.
Okay. So adding a policy allowing lower or waitresses, base employees to cut people off.
Right. Waitresses, bartenders.
Okay. Would your client be open? I understand all employees are TABC certified,
right?
Which we appreciate because we know you're not required to do that. However, one of my client's concerns is, he had actually been TABC certified back in college, and he mentioned to me, this is an online course. It takes like 2 hours and you're done, and you don't really learn a whole lot. So one of those things we were suggesting, and it is some kind of workshop or something to really train employees on how to spot intoxication, how to track drinks, how to cut people off. It just seems that there wasn't enough done to know when to see those warning signs.
Do you mean like periodic training on site? Like we get all the employees together in off hours,
right?
Every 6 months, every year,
right? Something like upon hire, and maybe every 6 months, 8 months, something like that. That's ongoing training because TABC, it's every 2 years. It's 2 hours every 2 years. You're not really retaining a whole lot,
right?
And it just seems here that nobody but this one waitress was able to spot the signs of intoxication. And this wasn't light intoxication. This was more than twice the speed limit, the legal limit intoxication. He was at 0.17. So that's a lot.
Right.
So there must have been a lot of warning signs going on.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't there personally, so I don't know all the details on that, but I understand your concern with that. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's reasonable. That won't be at any real expense to my client. So,
I mean, I think it would be beneficial to your client to have that. But like I said, my client is very interested in making sure this doesn't happen to everybody else. He cares about his community. It's not just about him getting money. He just really wants to make sure there's some deterrence from this situation.
Right. And obviously my client is very interested in not being sued again in the future, and this could avoid that as well. So.
Okay.
Would every 6 months or every year?
I think if we can say upon hire.
Upon hire, okay.
And maybe renew maybe have a set, in-house training day type deal. You're closed all day, and that whole day you're doing the on-site training.
Okay.
Is that something?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so let's say on hire and once a year. Like a MLK, everybody comes in and we have a training, or Memorial, something like that.
Okay.
Maybe not Memorial Day, since that's veterans, and a lot of your employees are veterans, from my understanding. Okay, so that's something we would like to do. I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier about memorializing.
Right.
Miss Bowen, and I do like that idea. She has 2 kids. They're 5 and 6 now. My client, obviously, they're young, and he doesn't want them to kind of forget their mom. And so if we could do something to memorialize her, that's gonna, keep her story out there, educate people on what's going on. And I think it would be nice for kids to see that growing up, to say, this is her fund, her site, something to really make sure that Sarah Bowen is not forgotten. I think that's very important to my client, and it's very important to his kids to have that. So what were your ideas on doing that?
We obviously don't think that we can do AA meetings on site. I don't think that would be appropriate.
Right.
But whenever we, help pay for these meetings or something, we can put that in her name. We can have, I don't know if it would be like a slap in the face to have some kind of photo or plaque or something of her in loving memory. Maybe we can put that beside the framed clauses, reminding our employees to just an extra emotional trigger to keep them in check.
I mean, we wouldn't be opposed to that, and that can be something you can include on your on-site training is, this is the reason why we're doing this.
Right.
As far as donations in her name, I think my client would really like that idea.
Okay.
And I think, if we can start, some kind of fund where, education and resources on, drunk driving, intoxication, things like that can go out in her name. I think my client would be very interested in that.
My client is also, a participant in the community. Whenever the community has 5Ks, 10Ks, we often donate money to that. We can have on all of our t-shirts, wristbands, whatever it is that they do, we can just have a little blurb about her. This is why we do this.
Okay.
That kind of thing. Anything like that.
Would it be, I know you said 900 was your max. Would it be possible to set up this fund and maybe, encourage donations and give perhaps a fraction of that to, maybe the kids, kind of set up a fund for them?
A fraction of
donations from this, we can do kind of like the Sarah Bowen Foundation. That's kind of what we were referring to, do like education and things like that, and maybe encourage people to donate on these 5Ks. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah.
Okay.
Things that we already do in the community, we can, take a portion of those funds that we receive and put it in community outreach.
Right. And I'm sure the Tap House wants to do charity work, write that off in taxes, things like that,
right.
And maybe donate a portion into this fund. I think my client would really appreciate if maybe we can say, a fraction of this fund every year is going to go on a trust account for his 2 children, make that a college fund or something like that, something to support them in the future. I think we would be very interested in that since, I understand we can't recover more money right now, but if we can say we're going to build a fund for them to then kind of have a little bit of a cushion in the future, we would be very interested in that.
Yeah, I think that's very reasonable.
Okay.
Do you have a percent in mind, like 10%? I don't have a number of annual receipts, how much money we get, or the tap house gets every year, so it might be difficult to pin down a number.
Well, we can say, maybe do like a fourth goes to the kids, 3/4 goes into education, and, information about, drunk driving, intoxication. Obviously the tap house wants to have a day where they take donations, do some charity night. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
10% of sales tonight go into this fund, and maybe do that once a month. Something to that effect of kind of having an ongoing.
Like, what are those things called that Chick-fil-A does all the time?
Right.
Or like 10 cents of what your meal goes to this charity or whatever.
Right. Something like that. If the tap house can do a yearly donation to the fund, and they can also fundraise throughout the year, and maybe do a quarter of that. And of course, I understand you're mostly representing insurance companies as opposed to the tap house, but if the insurance company wants to get in on that as well, I'm totally okay with that. But the 5Ks, all that kind of raise money towards that fund, and also do a percentage of maybe one night sales every month. Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay.
How old are the children?
They're 5 and 6 now.
Okay. And so this would go until they turn 18?
Right, exactly, presumably.
Okay.
We want to make sure that they have options when they get to college and all that. Their dad only earns less than about $40,000 a year, and that's not enough to put 2 kids through college. I'm sure they'll be great students, but we can't really guarantee a scholarship right now. So,
right.
I think this would really help my client kind of feel a little bit better about maybe not getting $2.5 million that he's asking for. But if he can know, about 13, 12 years out, the kids will have a little bit of something, and it'll have time to accumulate. He'll feel a lot better about settling now.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's doable. As far as the $900,000, which I know you said you're not necessarily agreeing to that immediately.
If we really can't do anything more than that, that's the absolute policy limit, and what are the other options?
That's all that I am authorized to do today. It's either that or go to trial, which I'm very interested in not going to trial in this case, because as you can understand, the publicity would not be great for us.
If we can get all these things that we talked about down on paper, make sure that this is enforced, I think we can do the $900,000 with the understanding that we're doing the fund for the kids to accumulate until they turn 18, and then do the continuing education. And in addition to the $900,000, we're also doing the $8,000 for the vehicle. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
However we want to. Yeah, if you want to do that, paying in cash, or because I know you said that the car was totaled, right? So there's no repairing it or
no. Even scrap metal is not
right.
There's nothing there.
Okay. Would you be open to a payment plan as opposed to one solid payment? Like the $900.
As of right now, my client has incurred a significant amount of debt. He's had to pay for the funeral, had to pay for the car, had to pay for childcare. He's making mortgage payments by himself. So I think if we can get all the money in now, that would be best. just because he needs to pay these debts off as soon as possible before they start accumulating, and I think that would help him breathe a little bit better to know that's not an immediate concern. If, even if we do a partial,
like a large down payment.
Right, put the remainder, in the payment plan or something like that. We are open to that, but.
Okay. How about, let me do some quick math.
Sure.
What about a third down, 300,000?
Okay.
And then so that'll be 600,000 left. If I can just grab my calculator.
Sure.
If you don't mind. We can do like a 5 or 10 year payment plan. If it's, I'll read you the numbers.
Sure.
If it's 10 years, that's $60,000 a year.
Okay.
And then if it's 5, that'll be 120.
Okay. I remember the tax stuff.
It's been a long time since I've had to do tax law.
Okay. I think we would be open to doing the 10-year.
Okay.
Let me just think. Childcare is about $36 a year. So that plus, yeah, we could do a 10-year plan. With the understanding that we're putting the 300,000, we're getting that, within 30 days or something like that.
Okay.
Can we do within 30 days?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So if we can do that, within, we can do 6 weeks if that's easier.
Yeah, let's do 6 weeks.
Okay. And then do 60 for 10 years.
Right.
Okay. And then fund for the kids. Let me just make sure. We'll go ahead and write this out. So we're doing 300,000 in due in 6 weeks.
Right.
6 weeks from 7/5, and I believe that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's due August 16th. Okay. Following that, payment of every year. And do we just want to make that due on August 16th of every year? Is that okay?
That's good.
Okay. And then we're gonna do the $8,000 property damage. Can we make that due on August 16th as well?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So that's the money, right? Am I missing anything?
No.
Okay. So let's talk about the fund. This is going to be in Sarah's name.
Right. What did you call her earlier? The Sarah Bowen Foundation? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can talk to McLean about what specifically. Okay. I'm sure he's going to have some opinions on that. But, just something in her memory.
Okay.
So this fund will be created by the tap house, right?
Right.
And so you're gonna do fundraisers once a month.
As far as like
You know,
portions of our drinks.
yeah, like portions of sales.
Right.
And you also said, 5Ks, like the charity events, maybe do like a fundraiser, just let people know they can donate at any time, kind of.
Right. The 5Ks and the 10K, that's usually up on holidays, like we do the turkey trots and stuff.
Right.
So
something like that where they can fundraise money for the fund.
Right.
Okay. So
we'll do, what did we say, a quarter? So a quarter of the funds that we get from each race, each 5K and 10K, will go to the Sarah Bowen Foundation Trust account thing.
Okay. I think we talked about this earlier, but I'm not sure if we specified a lot. But we were saying, those tax write-offs for charitable donations. Do we want to set a hard number, or do we want to do like a fraction? Just say a fraction of all charitable donations will be made to Sarah Bowen's fund.
Yeah, let's do a fraction. I think that would be easier than a number. I don't know. What about a fifth? Is that...
Do we want to stick with 1/4 since we were saying 1/4 fundraising?
Okay. Yeah.
Of yearly donations. Well, at least 1/4. If you want to donate more, feel free to. At least 1/4 of yearly donations will go to the Sarah Bowen Fund. Okay. And so within that fund, I think a quarter. Do you want to say a quarter, or do we want to say half will go to the kids? What do we say? I can't remember what we said.
I think we said a quarter, and I mean, to me that's a good number because we do still have obligations to other.
Okay. Well, we're saying a quarter off of the Sarah Bowen Fund itself will be going straight to a trust fund, and then the 3/4 will be used for continuing education.
Right.
Okay. Just making sure.
That's fine.
So, and this is a quarter of the yearly amount.
Right.
Okay. Will go into a trust for children. Remainder. I'm sure my client will have some opinions as to how we can do continuing education, whether it be give a seminar on facts or bring guests in, something to that effect.
Right.
And that's something we can hash out later on. But so long as we're saying this is for education on, signs of intoxication, how to spot that, how to prevent incidents like this from happening.
Right.
Okay. So that's all good. I think that's it for the fund.
Yeah, that's all I have written down.
Okay. And so the other thing we talked about was the policy changes.
Right. And there's a few of those.
Okay, double policy. So basically what we're saying is bartender is not going to, will only give drinks to whoever he sees.
1 drink per body.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is to keep track of how much people are drinking. We're also implementing new policies with regards to law enforcement officers specifically.
Right. And that'll be a clause we'll write directly into the handbook to just get rid of that mentality that has somehow been built up in the employees there.
So we're gonna say, I just want to make sure we have wording in mind.
I agree.
Yeah, law enforcement officers or first responders, I believe is the appropriate phrasing. First responders shall be treated like any other customer. If at any point first responder seems intoxicated, company policies to cut them off. Is that? Okay.
No.
You know, roughly.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. We were also going to institute a policy where that would allow waitresses and lower employees to cut people off.
Yes.
If they see intoxication. Okay.
It doesn't just rely on the management level anymore.
Okay. Law waitresses.
The last thing I have is the TABC certification and then the in-house training.
Okay, so we said on hire and once a year company
right.
Wide training on recognizing okay. I believe that's it. And if you want to look over this, feel free. Just make sure.
I was kind of looking over your shoulder while you were typing. Everything looks good.
Okay, that all looks good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to take all this to my client, but I think he'll be very interested in this. I think this is a good settlement that will benefit both of us. So yeah, I think we'll be okay with this.
Okay, great.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.